All right, we're about to go on a pretty wild journey. We're going to travel from ancient legends all the way to modern day media. And along the way, we'll uncover how these incredibly old stories are still secretly and powerfully shaping our world.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got Zeus throwing lightning bolts in blockbuster movies, and Odin brooding in these billion-dollar video games. These ancient gods, they are literally everywhere. They're like the hidden code that's running underneath all of our favorite stories. So that brings us to the big question, right? What is it about these stories that gives them such incredible staying power? Why are we, thousands of years later, still so completely obsessed with them?
Well, a huge part of the answer is that myths tap into these things called archetypes. These are basically universal blueprints for characters. The brave hero, the clever trickster, the wise old mentor. They show up in stories from every culture on Earth because they reflect something real about us, about our own struggles and the questions we ask ourselves.
And the most famous pattern of them all has to be the hero's journey. You have seen this 1,000 times, I promise. Someone leaves their normal everyday life, goes through a bunch of insane challenges, and then comes back home totally transformed. That exact structure, it's the backbone of everything from ancient poems like the Iliad to pretty much every superhero movie you've seen in the last decade.
Yeah, a really great way to think about this is that myths are like a kind of cultural operating system. They're the software we use to process our biggest questions, about fate, love, power, justice. The user interface changes over the centuries, but that core code, it just keeps running.
Okay, so let's see this cultural software in action in one of the most obvious places you can find it, the movies.
Greek mythology, it has completely soaked into our pop culture. We've taken ancient figures like Hercules and the, let's be honest, often petty gods of Olympus, and we've turned them into 21st century icons. You see it in Disney movies, in the Percy Jackson books and shows, and even in dark comedies like Chaos, where Zeus is basically this neurotic, paranoid CEO.
And it is the exact same story with Norse myths. Look at Marvel's Thor or the God of War games. They didn't just copy and paste the old sagas. No way. They reinvented Odin, Loki, and the Valkyries as these deeply complex, conflicted, and honestly relatable characters. And that's the key thing to get. These aren't just lazy remakes. They are crucial updates, exploring timeless ideas about family and destiny for a modern audience that binge watches Netflix instead of gathering around a campfire.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This whole phenomenon goes way, way beyond the familiar European myths. It's definitely time to look past Greece and Asgard.
Video games have become this massive new stage for mythology. Suddenly, gods from Egyptian lore, like Osiris and Ra, aren't just figures in a history book. They're playable characters in huge games like Assassin's Creed or Smite. And that brings these amazing, sometimes lesser-known stories to a whole new generation and kicks off brand new debates online. And that really points to something bigger. When we're watching anime or playing a fantasy game that's built on, say, Shinto spirits or Chinese dragons, it's more than just cool art. When a culture shares its myths through its media, it's also sharing its entire worldview, its own unique way of looking at nature, justice, and what it even means to be a hero. Now, this influence doesn't just stop with the stuff we watch and play. The truth is, mythology is woven right into the fabric of our everyday lives, hiding in plain sight. Just think about brand names for a second. They are constantly borrowing from mythology to give their products instant meaning. Nike isn't just a shoe with a swoosh. It's named after the Greek goddess of victory. Ajax isn't just a cleaning product. It's named for a Greek hero famous for his strength. It's absolute marketing genius. They're not just selling you an object, they're selling you a story. And what this really means is that we are all fluent in mythology, whether we know it or not. Every single time you talk about someone's Achilles heel, or a Herculean task, or warn against opening Pandora's box, you are tapping directly into the power of these ancient, ancient stories. So all of this brings us right here to the present moment. Because we're not just consumers of old myths anymore. We are actively creating and living inside the myths of the future. Let's take a look at our own modern-day mythology. Look at today's gigantic franchises, our superhero universes, our sprawling sci-fi sagas. These are, for all intents and purposes, our new mythologies. They have their own pantheons of gods and monsters, their own sacred origin stories, and their own complex moral codes that fans will debate online with the exact same passion that theologians once used to debate scripture. And we've built new rituals around these new myths. Things like going to conventions, creating amazing cosplay, spending hours online hunting for lore, and getting into intense fan theory debates. These are the ways modern communities connect with their stories. It strengthens their cultural impact and, in a way, makes them feel totally real. And you know what? This is only going to get more intense. In the very near future, technology like virtual reality and AI won't just let us watch these myths. They're going to let us inhabit them. We'll be able to literally step inside these worlds and make choices that change the story. Our whole relationship with narrative is about to fundamentally change.
So, at the end of the day, mythology's powerful grip on us isn't really about nostalgia. It's about a deep, fundamental human need to tell stories to figure out who we are and where we came from. And as we continue to create and live inside these powerful new stories, we're left with one final, really important question. What kind of legends do we want to become?